What's up guys, Uncasual Gamer here, and welcome to my 2026 video game room tour. Let's take a look. Yes, so welcome to my video game room. It is January in 2026, and I think the last video game room tour that I did was March last year, or at least early last year, and so much has changed in the room. Obviously, we've got loads more stuff in here now, a lot of new items, a lot of really cool items. Some of them I have documented on my YouTube channel, some of them I've not yet. I guess the biggest change has probably been these shelves behind me. So last time I did a game room tour, all of my shelves are lower ones. We've obviously upgraded a few of them now to these taller, big Billy bookcases. So the room looks a lot more impressive. It looks a lot better. Also upgraded a lot of the lighting, and we'll get onto that shortly. One of the things I get most questions about in this game room on my videos and photos is some of the lighting, in particular this Vice City light just behind me. So we'll get onto that. Behind the camera is all my setup, so my multimedia setup, so my consoles, my TVs. I've got two TVs in the room. Got about 20 consoles in the room with about 6 hooked to and plugged in ready to play at any one point. And then we've got between 800 and 1,000 games around the room as well as a small collection of Blu-rays and, as you can imagine, all the other cool, wonderful collector's bits such as little trinkets, figures, steelbooks, all that kind of stuff. So what we'll do is we will start with the multimedia setup behind me, and then we will get onto all of the games, and in between we'll talk about things like lighting and Blu-rays as well. Get yourself comfy, get yourself a brew of good old Yorkshire tea, and enjoy. And just to caveat that, because of my age, I'm not that old. I only actually started playing video games in kind of like the really, let's say early noughties, really end of the 90s a little bit, and then into the early noughties. So I only collect back to really like the PS1 era, and from that point I don't collect things like the NES or the Switch, just because I didn't grow up with them consoles, so it would make no sense. I have no nostalgia for them consoles. Obviously, when I do jump back into some of those games, I jump into those games for the first time, I enjoy them, and I have toyed with some of those older games, but for collections and for collecting for myself, it has to have been something that I played growing up really in terms of the console generation. So yeah, anything from the PS1 era onwards, that includes things like the Wii and obviously the Switch a little bit later on. It includes the DS, PSP, PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, PS5, and the OG Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and the Xbox Series X. Okay, so when you walk into the room, this is how you're greeted. Just a quick layout example of the room. Over here, we've got my cinema seat style chair, which is actually one of the newest items in the room. My fiance got me that for Christmas, this Christmas just gone. Really comfy. Obviously, this reclines as well. So it's not an electric recliner, but when you sit on it and you kind of push your back, the front comes up as well. It reclines into two positions. Super comfy, and also quite small and compact. Obviously, I've got a lot of stuff in this room. However, it's not actually the biggest room in the world. It's about 3 meters by 4 meters. We've then got magazines, some consoles on the bottom, which we'll talk about again in a lot more detail very shortly. On to some more display stuff, and then comes the bulk of the game. So normal games, a lot of like collector's editions and bigger stuff. A lot more games, and more games on here. And then as we come around even further, you'll see here we've got a small collection of Blu-rays, a small 32-inch TV, and then my multimedia setup. So that's the layout of the room, and what we'll do first is we'll just talk through this chair and my multimedia setup where I sit to play my games. So yeah, this seat, I got this year, and as I mentioned, this is super comfy. Before I had this in the last video I did, I think I had a sofa in here, like a 2-seater sofa, which wasn't very comfy, and it also didn't look very aesthetically pleasing. This looks a lot more professional in here. It just looks a lot better in the room, and yeah, absolutely love this sofa, this chair. So, onto the multimedia setup. The moment I've got my Xbox Series X plugged in. So the Series X is here, and this is the console I play the most. Now, as you'll see when I talk about my games very shortly, over here, Xbox is by far the franchise that I play the most. I've got kind of the most, not just nostalgia for, but out of Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox is certainly the franchise that I play the most of, and I've always have. Obviously, this Series X is backwards compatible, which means that I can put in a lot of Xbox 360 games, almost every Xbox One game. In fact, I think every Xbox One game, and a lot of original Xbox games, and obviously the newer stuff as well. Also got Game Pass on there, which means that games like Forza Motorsport that I don't actually own on disc, I can still play. So yeah, my go-to console to play day to day is definitely my Series X. It's obviously really easy because I've got everything on the Game Pass, like I mentioned. I can put any disc into that. I've also got the PS5 down here. Now, the PS5 I tend to play exclusively for exclusives, really. So most recently I played Ghost of Yotei on the PS5. If it's kind of like a game that is cross-play across the two systems, I will tend to play it on the Xbox. So things like if I'm playing Call of Duty, for example, or if I'm playing FIFA, which is my guilty pleasure, I will play on the Xbox. Things like Battlefield I get on the Xbox. But anything that's exclusive, so your Uncharted, like I said, a Ghost of Yotei, Astro Bot, which I played last year and absolutely loved, all those kind of games I play on the PlayStation 5. Down here, then moving on, we've also got three Wiis in fact. We've got the black Wii, the blue Wii, and the white Wii, and also the Mario Wii Remote. We then got a silver PS2 and my Xbox 360, which is currently hooked up to this TV over here. Now, this TV I do predominantly use for watching Blu-rays, and you might be thinking, oh, well, hang on, the Xbox 360 doesn't play Blu-rays. And that is true, and that's why I've also got a PS3 over in the corner, which is hooked up to this TV as well, and that plays my Blu-rays on there. We'll talk about the Blu-ray collection in a little while. Let's go back to the consoles down here. So next up, we have got my original Xboxes, and we've got two. We've got the black one and the crystal one. Now, obviously, only one of these is hooked up at the moment, and the one that is hooked up is the black one. When I was growing up and younger, I always wanted the crystal one. It was kind of like a dream for me to have the crystal Xbox. And yeah, never got it, unfortunately. Obviously, you know, Xboxes back in the day were very, very expensive. And yeah, I had the black one. I was very lucky to have that and never got the crystal one. So when I grew up, I decided to get myself a crystal one. Got both these very, very cheap. If you're after an Xbox over here in the UK, you can get these for under £50 each for either variant. The green Xbox, the green Halo translucent Xbox is one of the most wanted items on my game list, and it's something that I'll certainly will be looking for this year in 2026. And then moving down, we have a standard white Xbox 360, a Modern Warfare 3 Xbox 360, which really interestingly has the number 3 on it. I don't know if you can see at this camera. Really interestingly, it has the number 3 on it twice, which was obviously a misprint when it came out of the factory. I then got the Halo 3 Xbox 360, which is probably one of my top 3 prized possessions. If I was ever going to sell my games collection, this would be one of the 2 or 3 items I would keep over everything else. I've got the matching controller with it, and this is also in absolutely perfect condition. If I get out, it's got the matching hard drive. You obviously won't be able to tell on camera too much. I'll try and put a bit of B-roll over the top so you can see it, but yeah, love that. And then a custom painted by myself, black and kind of like a bronzy colour Xbox 360, which I painted by myself. Did an okay job. As you can see, this top corner up here has actually worn away a little bit, and it wasn't that difficult to do. Also, it wasn't that easy, but it wasn't that difficult. Moving along, we've then got the Xbox 360 HD drive, which plays HD DVDs, which are the kind of ones that come in like a red case. People don't really have them these days. You can get them on places like Vinted and eBay for very, very cheap, and in the shop. If you haven't seen one of these before, let me get this out. It basically looks like a little Xbox 360. Obviously, it just has the one disc drive. But yeah, it looks like a little Xbox 360, and a pretty cool piece of kit. I never had one of these again growing up because I had a PS3 a lot of the time, and with the PS3 I could obviously play Blu-rays, which were much more common, and you know, ever since that era of gaming, that generation, Blu-rays have gone on to remain kind of common, and HD DVDs have never been used again. Then got a standard black PS2, which is plugged in, a standard PlayStation 1, which again is not plugged in. That's just because if I'm playing a PS1 game, I'll usually put it into one of my PS2 systems. Again, we've got the silver one over here and the black one over here. And then we've got a fat PS3. It's not a backwards compatible one. It is just the standard PlayStation 3. Moving up, we've got the PlayStation Classic, which again, as you can see, is not plugged in at the moment. I bought this for Christmas a few years ago when it came out. It's a bit dusty, so it could do with a wipe. Bought this, yeah, when it first came out, and honestly, not a big fan of it. I know it got a lot of backlash actually because the games on there are not really like the top 20, I think it's got 20 games on it, and they're not the classic 20 PS1 games you would have chosen. You know, I would have put a lot of different games on there if I was picking. And then moving up, we've obviously got my TV, and in here, this is a 55-inch Hisense TV. Don't know the spec or anything like that. What I do know is this was pretty much budget friendly. Did a lot of research before buying this. Bought it, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and it is absolutely brilliant TV, honestly. It's really, really good. And it cost me under £300, I think. And for the price, you cannot complain with that because, yeah, it is absolutely brilliant. Now, we'll move on to the Blu-rays over there in a second. What we'll do now is we'll talk about some of the games. Okay, so let's talk about the main area of the collection, which is obviously all of these shelves over here, which contain most of my video games, as well as controllers, collector bits, etc. And I think the easiest way to do this is if we start in this corner and then we will work our way all the way around until we get over here. So, kicking us off, in this far corner, we have got some Xbox 360 Guitar Hero guitars. I think there's 6 in the corner because they are double stacked. And yeah, when I grew up, I played Guitar Hero, a lot of Guitar Hero, absolutely loved it. Played it all on the 360, and if I'm jumping back into the games now, the 360 is where I play them. So I've got a chunk of them in the corner. And I've then got this framed Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games magazine, which is going to go up on the wall here. Only recently got that and framed it, so yeah, that's going to go up there very, very shortly. And then some boring stuff, we've just got these cardboard boxes here, which have things in them like, at the top, they are labelled very, very lightly at the top. That one is TV components, so that's things like HDMIs, TV components, SCART leads for old consoles. The second one is all Xbox controllers, and the third bottom one is all power units. That's power units for games, consoles that I don't currently have hooked up to the TV. I just store in the box. And then moving across, we've got a very, very small selection of PS Vita games. I think there are only, 5 there, and the Vita is just above them just here. So, never had a Vita growing up. And when I say growing up, I probably was an adult at the time. I was already growing up when it came out. But I never had a Vita when it came out, when it was, Sony's latest console, latest handheld console. And for that reason, I don't have much nostalgia for it. Bought one a few years ago, and I do think it is an amazing console. It was definitely way ahead of its time. But because I don't have the nostalgia, I don't tend to jump into the Vita that often. And as you can see, it's probably the smallest library of games I've got in my entire collection. I do love the PSP. We'll talk about these little beauties in just a while. But yeah, got my Vita and some Vita games. Got this amazing Skyrim Light, which is not lit up at the moment. However, it looks amazing when it is. That was purchased from Doncaster Retro Game Market last year. And yeah, they have loads of different ones. I think they'll be back at Leeds Game Market. I will try and link the name of the couple who make these in the description below. Moving on, we've got a brand new Pokemon Charmander Switch controller. It's just a wired one. It is a Power A one, so it's not like, I think they're officially licensed, but they're not like official controllers. And then I've got probably the most expensive standard game, in fact, definitely the most expensive standard game in my collection, which is Pokemon Fire Red. That is boxed, and that comes with the Poké Walker. So yeah, love the Pokemon games growing up. I actually played more on the DS than what I did on the Game Boy. However, Fire Red, it's such an iconic game, I had to get in the collection. So yeah, got that last year, and I replayed it last year as well, right from start to finish. And then we have got these games, which are, apart from this one, these are all Lego games on either the Xbox One or the PS4, and they all come with a cardboard sleeve. So there are, I think there are 11 to get in total, and I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at the moment. I've got 3 to go. They're getting harder to find at the moment. For a long time you can get these on Amazon. So hoping to get the full set of these, and they display really nice. Once I've got the full set, I'm hoping to display them all on a shelf, stood upright. Moving on to the next shelf, we have got a chunk of magazines. Now, these are a mix, really. Some of them are really old magazines that I've picked up at Gaming Market. Some of them are new retro gamer mags, which I tend to pick up. Not every month, but I do get the retro game magazines from WH Smith as and when I see them as new one. They're about £6, so they are a lot of money. But yeah, they're good to just read. You know, obviously everything is digital these days, especially when you're playing a lot of video games and looking at a screen all day long. It's nice to sit down and read a magazine for a change, for example. And moving further down, we have just got some of the boxes for stuff that I have. In fact, some of this stuff is still boxed. So I've got my Xbox One, which, given I've now got an Xbox Series X, I don't use it at all, really. Sometimes I plug it in another room if I want to play on Game Pass or watch a DVD, but yeah, rarely ever gets used. an awful console, to be fair. Probably Xbox, well, definitely Xbox's worst ever console. But I still had it when it was out, and it holds some nostalgia for me. And some of the games that I had some great games on it, I think. I just play them on the Series X now. One of the highlights of my whole collection is this Duke controller, which is the Cortana Halo 20-year edition controller. Obviously, this is in the style of the original Dukes that came out on the original Xbox. And I've got a separate video dedicated just to this controller, which I'll link up above. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. It's got a little screen where the Xbox logo is, and that plays a little snippet from the Halo games. Then got a Logitech gear stick, which fits onto my Logitech steering wheel, which is currently in storage because I just don't use it enough, really. Okay, so that's the first shelf done. Not many games on that shelf. It's kind of like the latest shelf I added on, and it just made sense to put like some of the random bits there. So that's what it is. Now, following on top, we have now got a blue PSP, a red PSP, and the purple, I think this is the Hannah Montana edition PSP. Now, all three of these, while they are dusty, they are in absolutely immaculate condition. There is barely a mark on these three PSPs. I picked up the red and the blue one, both on Facebook Marketplace, during COVID, and got them both for really good prices. And I recently did another video on my channel last year where I spoke about some of the most expensive items in my game room. And all three of these fit in the top 10 most expensive items. I think the blue and the purple one are both almost £200 each now at CEX. Now, obviously CEX inflates a lot of prices, and it doesn't mean that's what they're worth. But going by CEX prices, yeah, these three are almost £200 each. And obviously I'm a big fan of the PSP. We'll talk through some of my PSP games very shortly, which are down here on the bottom shelf. Going up, I had the black PSP, and I don't have the black PSP anymore. I had one last year, I sold it. But yeah, I have a lot of love for the PSP, a lot of nostalgia for the PSP, and that's why I've got three of them on display here next to the PlayStation Lite. Now, just below that is a Scarlett PlayStation 3 Slim console, and that runs beautifully, I think, into my PS3 Essentials and PlayStation 4 Hits. So if you watch Retro Ghetto's channel, you know a lot of people over the last 2 or 3 years really have been collecting the Red Spine. First it was the PS3 Hits, and then the PlayStation 4 Essentials. I started collecting them as well. Now, it's not something that I actively collect for, or actively kind of go out and look for. However, if I'm in a CEX, if I'm in a game store, if I'm in a charity shop and I see one that I've not got in the collection, I will pick it up. I guess the dream really is to eventually, when I do have enough of these, is to have a full red, so all this shelf would be red, then have the console, and then we'd have all red again over this shelf. And I think that would look really, really good along this back wall if it was just like red the entire way. So then let's move down here. We have got, this is a Pokemon Scarlet and Violet promotional box. This is just a cover box, nothing in this. I got this from my local retro game store, which is Lee's Deals or Direct Deals in Bradford. And he was giving these away. He had like 5 to give away. He had this one, he had an Astrobot one, which I've got up there in the corner. And yeah, they obviously look really, really good. He didn't charge for them. I obviously spent some money in the shop because he gave me them. And they look really good in the game room. They do take up a little bit of room. Obviously, this is taking up a full shelf and it's just a piece of cardboard. But I think they look great in the room, so it remains at the moment. And then just below that, we've got the box to, I'm going to say, the number one item in my video game room, in my game room. And that is the box to the Halo 3 Legendary Edition. And that is just over there, which we obviously will get onto shortly. But yeah, that is the most prized possession in my entire collection. It's one of the more valuables as well, but it's not because of what it's worth why it's my number one. Like I say, we'll talk about that very, very shortly. Moving up here, we have got my PlayStation Icons light, which is just a cheap light, really, that you get off, I think, Amazon, B&M, wherever. Just plugged into a USB down the back of this cabinet. And then we've got my Vice City light. And this has got to be, out of everything in this game room, all of the amazing things, all the expensive things, this is the number one thing I get asked about when I'm putting videos online or pictures online. People are like, oh yeah, you've got the Vice City light. Where's the Vice City light from? The Vice City light looks awesome. So many comments about this. So the Vice City light I actually got, believe it or not, from Temu. So yeah, this came all the way from Temu. I think it actually was, for Temu's prices, quite expensive. It was like £25. But I mean, I've got the lights at the moment in here, like the main light, and if I turn them off like on a night and stuff, it just looks absolutely incredible. It's so, so good. So yeah, I mean, like I say, probably the standout most people think when they see my game room. Moving down, we've got a Ghost of Yotei, which I've been playing recently, just out on the ledge. I've then got an old iPod dock with a couple of old iPods. Again, obviously I like physical media, as you can probably guess, and while an iPod is not considered physical media, I've obviously got CDs and records as well. I would much prefer to clip an iPod in here into a good speaker and play a song that I've put on my iPod rather than loading up, like asking Alexa to play a song on Spotify. So yeah, it's just really nostalgic to kind of get an iPod, cycle through, that one is dead at the moment, get an iPod, cycle through and put some tunes on in here. So then back onto the PS3 games and PS4. So we've already talked about these. There's about 15 in each of these collections at the moment, and like I say, as and when I see these, I'm adding more to the collection, but not necessarily hunting them down every day. And then the rest of the PS3 collection is just basically, like, I tried to colour coordinate a little bit, so I've got some of the Platinum editions here, some of the spines that are black here, and then some of the more lighter spines down here. As I've mentioned, and I will continue to mention, Xbox is kind of where my heart's at, or what I grew up with more, and where I have more love. So my Xbox section kind of spans from up here, down here, all of these shelves, whereas the PlayStation section is still 4 shelves big, plus PlayStation 1 over here, so still 5 shelves, but it's certainly something that I have a lot less nostalgia for, and a lot less love for compared to the Xbox. So yeah, there is not really many impressive titles that I'm going to pick out on here to talk about. Obviously, the PS4 I consider to be the second best console of all time after the Xbox 360. I think if you look at the library that the PlayStation 4 had, it was absolutely unbelievable. The number of 10 out of 10 AAA games that we got that were single player, that were exclusive to that console, I don't think we will ever see in gaming history again. I mean, just to look at it now, we had God of War, which I think won Game of the Year in 2018, the year it came out. We had 2 Uncharted games, now albeit Lost Legacy not the best. But then we had The Last of Us Part 2, which is one of my favourite games of all time. We had Horizon Zero Dawn, which I've got over here. We had the Spider-Man games. Like, it was absolutely phenomenal. And we had Ghost of Tsushima. So yeah, I don't think we'll ever see anything like the PS4 again in terms of the library it had. We certainly have not seen anything anywhere near that on the PlayStation 5. So the PlayStation 4 I've got a lot of love for, but PlayStation in general is certainly not up as high as the Xbox is in my own regards. Again, some more PS3 stuff, but nothing worth mentioning. This is worth mentioning. This is something that is fairly new to the collection. This is one of the 5th anniversary of PlayStation, 30th anniversary of PlayStation controllers for the PlayStation 5. I've not opened that as of yet. I am just saving that in the box. Now, I didn't buy it to sell or anything. I obviously bought it for the collection. I'm not being a scalper or anything like that. But yeah, keep it in the box for now, just because I don't play the PS5 enough that warrants opening it. And I certainly don't play many 2-player PS5 games where I need 2 controllers. So then we've got the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation Portable, or the PSP. Again, not the biggest collections in the world, and also not the best collections. I mean, standout titles on these would be The Simpsons Hit and Run, which obviously I think is probably the most popular PlayStation 2 game ever. Everyone played this game, right? Whether it was your sister, your cousin, your brother, like everyone played Simpsons Hit and Run at some point. It was basically GTA for kids. Lord of the Rings games on the PS2, I absolutely love growing up as well. Really good. And Grand Theft Auto, this is where I played Vice City and San Andreas, which are 2 of obviously the greatest games ever made and 2 of the best Grand Theft Auto games. I played both them on the PlayStation 2 rather than the Xbox, and that's where a lot of my nostalgia comes from. I think we've got them both. We've got Vice City here in the Platinum, and yeah, I've got San Andreas as well. I've just seen it on the shelf here in the bottom corner down here. 2 amazing games. And yeah, smallish PlayStation 2 collection and even smaller PSP collection. Like I said, I do love the PSP, not something I tend to play these days all that much. Games I'll pick out here were Twisted Metal was an absolutely brilliant game. Loved that growing up. And The Godfather, I picked this up for like £2 at CEX, probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And I think it's now like a £15 game. So this is going up fast. I'm not sure why, because there's not been like a new Godfather film or anything. But yeah, it's just rising in price quite rapidly, that one. Again, Vice City Stories was amazing. I absolutely loved Vice City Stories when I was growing up. You know, playing a Grand Theft Auto game on the move was like just unbelievable. You can't even fathom that back in like the 2000s and 2010s. And then moving on to the next shelf. So this shelf is all of my like collector's editions, and then we've also got like 3 little shrines in here. So we'll start at the top. I've got this Xbox Lite, which I got on Boxing Day, in the Boxing Day sales this year from Amazon. This was £22, and it's back £22 now. On Boxing Day only, it dropped down to $6.99. It's just USB, so it plugs into the same USB port as the Vice City Lite and the PlayStation Icons Lite. And yeah, it looks really good. Obviously, it looks better when the lights are off on an evening as well. And then some collector's editions and special editions. We have got Beholder on the PS4. I never actually played this one, and it is still sealed. Got the newest Saints Row game, which is a special edition, but I think this literally is worth nothing. It's worth like £1 or £2. So it's Saints Row. I don't even know if it's numbered this one. Is it just Saints Row into the entitled game? And I think it comes with a balaclava, which I'm obviously never going to wear. I then got Batman Arkham City, this one I think is, with the really cool Batman Arkham statue. Sonic Colors, which again was a recent Amazon purchase, not opened that yet, but I do want to play that at some point. I've also got it on the Switch, so I don't really need to open it. And then I've got Ori Will of the Wisps, the collector's edition. But if you've not played any Xbox games and you've got an Xbox and you've got Game Pass, the 2 Ori games are absolutely incredible platformers. 100% would recommend them. Gorgeous games, and games that a lot of people for some reason haven't played. I think because they came out on the Xbox One era, and like I said, the Xbox One was a massive flop, a big failure. People didn't play many Xbox exclusives in them days. But yeah, I would 100% recommend that. And the first one, which is Ori and the Blind Forest, I think it's called, the first one, and then Will of the Wisps is the second one. Then got 3 PlayStation games just on display. Obviously, I've got some more PlayStation 1 games down on the shelf, but these are just, I think, most people my ages, most 90s kids' childhood, late 80s, 90s kids, these are, Spyro and Crash were kind of 2 of the games that got me into gaming when I was so young. So much nostalgia for them, brilliant games, and yeah, they just look awesome on display, don't they, even today. And then again, some more just bigger boxed items, BioShock 2, Hitman Absolution. I won't talk through all of these. What I will do is I'll mention Silent Hill F, which I played very, very recently. Bought it on Amazon, got the Steelbook edition, completed that game. Didn't actually rate it that highly. I thought Silent Hill 2 last year was a much better game. But I traded in Silent Hill F once I played it, and I kept the Steelbook for the collection. Donkey Kong Japanese game, went to Japan a couple of years ago, so as you'll see in this collection, there are a few Japanese games just dotted about. Didn't get that many games from Japan, but because I went there on a holiday rather than like a game collecting thing. However, yeah, what you find over there is all these games are second hand, but they are literally like brand new. So if you've never been to Japan, yeah. And then moving down, like I mentioned before, I have got the number 1 item in my entire game room. If all this was to go, had to be sold, the one thing I would keep is the Xbox, the Halo 3 Legendary Edition on the Xbox 360. And yeah, as you can see, it's a Master Chief helmet. Now, there were loads of these made. I mean, mine is like 267,000th in the world, so it's not like it's super, super rare. They are about £200 now to buy. I got mine for £60 a few years ago. And yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for the Vice City line, this is a standout piece in the room, right? When you walk into a room, this is the number 1 thing that I look at that most people see when you walk in. And yeah, it just looks amazing. Unfortunately, you can't wear it. It does come off the stand though, and the game is, along with like a bonus DVD, is inside the helmet. Yeah, it's pretty big, and yeah, it just looks amazing. Only so much I can say about that. And like I mentioned, I have got 3 little shrines here. So these are my 3 favourite video games ever made. Halo 3, GTA Vice City, and The Last of Us, both Part 1 and Part 2, I think are equally as good, which might be controversial, but it is what I think. So, first in the Vice City shelf, we have got the double packs of Vice City and GTA 3, both on the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, and both these are in really, really good condition. You'll struggle to find these in this good condition nowadays, given they are over 20 years old. The Xbox One, I think, looks slightly better just because of the metallic silver. And then I've also got the GTA Vice City soundtrack, which is here, which contains 6 discs. I don't think I can actually open it on this shelf without damaging it. It includes 6 discs, all the CDs, the radio stations in GTA Vice City. And if you're a GTA Vice City fan, you'll know how amazing the soundtracks were on this game. Some of the best soundtracks of all time. And yeah, great to put that into a CD player and listen to it now and again. And then on the next shelf, we have got a load of Last of Us stuff. So we've got The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, which I haven't actually played yet because I played The Last of Us Part 2 fairly recently. Picked this up at Argos last year when it was down to like £20, I think. And it was actually cheaper than CEX's trade-in price. The Last of Us Part 1, The Last of Us Part 2 Steelbook, then got The Last of Us Part 2 controller, and right at the back there is the only graded game in my entire collection, and that is The Last of Us Part 2, and it's graded. I actually won that on a competition last year on Instagram. Now, it's hard to put a value on that. I think someone's asking like £600 for one, someone else is asking £200. Not something I'm looking to sell, but I'm not a graded collector, and I wouldn't usually buy graded games. As you've probably already seen, I have got the odd sealed game in the collection, the sealed item, like the PlayStation controller, like The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. But yeah, I'm not a graded collector, but it's a really cool item to have. Doesn't display terribly well because it's in a big acrylic case. I'd rather just have the actual 2 games at the front here on display. But yeah, my 3 favourite games of all time: Halo 3, GTA Vice City, and The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2. Kind of 4 games, I guess, but yeah, we're counting them as 1 game. Bottom shelf, nothing too fancy. I've got a Mario Kart DS. My Switch box, didn't actually show the Switch on display because it's not actually out at the moment. Because over Christmas I've been taking it to people's houses, etc., playing it in my living room. So the Switch is not hooked up at the moment, but yeah, do have a Switch. One of the very, very first edition ones that came out when it first came out. And then on to the Xbox wall. So, like I've mentioned multiple times in this video, you know, Xbox is my favourite platform, whether it be the original Xbox, the 360, the Series X. Wanting to get into console wars or anything like that, because obviously I like both systems, I collect for both systems. Xbox is where my heart is at, let's put it as that. So, top shelf, we've got my Series X box, which is obviously just empty because the Series X is used on a daily basis. And then we've got the Assassin's Creed Odyssey Medusa edition, which comes with this absolutely incredible statue. Now, Fallout I love. I think I've spoken about this in videos before, but Fallout I love Assassin's Creed. Used to absolutely love them when I was younger. As you can see on the 360, you know, loved Assassin's Creed, love number 2, love number 3, love Brotherhood, love Black Flag, love Revelations. Don't forget I actually ever played Rogue. And then when they changed the format and did Odyssey and Valhalla and made it open world, I wasn't a fan really. I think the first one was Origins, the Egyptian one. Wasn't really a big fan. But last year, started playing Odyssey, got it back into it, absolutely loved it, 100%ed it, platinumed it, whatever you call it on Xbox, like got 1000G. And yeah, then went out and bought the Odyssey edition with this Unreal statue. And then the Xbox 360, so this is by far the biggest library of games I've got for any one console. There are approximately 250 games on here, so still not like an absolutely massive collection. Nowhere near kind of, you know, completing the collection, which some people are going for, which is over 1,000 games. But this is the console that I grew up with, like in my teenage years, and for that reason it's the console I probably played the most. You know, I was at upper school when the 360 was out, so I played it for God knows how many hours a day over and over again, and so many amazing games. You know, I've spoken about this system on so many videos before. We have the shooters, like there has never been an era before where you've had as many good first-person shooters franchises on one generation or one console. We obviously had Call of Duty at its best ever time with things like Black Ops and World at War. We had the Battlefield games, you know, Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, all amazing games. Obviously, we had the Halo games, which is my favourite franchise of all time. We also then, on here exclusively, not just had Halo, but also had Gears of War, which are not first-person shooters, but they are still shooter games, and Gears of War Judgment. We got 4 Gears of War games. We got, 5 Halo games. Yeah, just, you know, what an era of game. I think this was the greatest era of gaming ever. Guitar Heroes, I think, are the greatest rhythm-based games ever made. Guitar Hero has never been the same since it was out on this generation of console. And then you've got just random games dotted about that are really, really good. You know, Minecraft came out on this console. Red Dead Redemption came out on this console. We had GTA 4 and GTA 5 plus expansions. We had 2 Grand Theft Auto games this generation, and we've had none since that generation. So yeah, amazing console, and my favourite console of all time. Highlights in terms of rarity, valuability in this collection, I would say Lollipop Chainsaw is probably the most expensive, worth about £40 to £50 at the moment. And other than that, there's not too much that valuable on this system. Things like Digimon Rumble, I think are about £25 at the moment. The Orange Box, again, I think that's about £20, and is an amazing collection of 3 games, including both Portal and Half-Life 2. Spider-Man games, there are a lot of expensive Spider-Man games on this console, but I've only got 2 of the cheaper ones. And then going back to good games, we got Oblivion and Skyrim. So much like GTA, we got 2 full GTA games. We also got 2 Elder Scrolls games, and again, I've not seen one since then. Now, as I keep going up and down, you'll have seen in the middle of here, I've got a small Xbox One and Xbox Series X controller collection. So the first one is a remix one, which I got vinted for very cheap recently. Next up is a custom design one, which my fiance got me for Christmas a few years back now, probably like 5 or 6 years ago. Then we've got the Sport controller, which again I got vinted recently for a very good price. I think I got both these for about £20 each, and I think both in CX, like in the 50s. So yeah, really good. I got stung on this Forza controller a little bit, so I bought this off vinted for not like an amazing price. I think it was like £70, £80 the going rate normally, and I got it for like 50. Might have been 55 with postage. Really good condition, and has the box, which obviously if you get it from CEX, you usually won't have the box with it. And it was described as mint, never used. However, when I got it, it had 2 things wrong with it. Number 1, the battery part, the plastic cover that goes on the back of it, has a broken piece on, which was rattling around the controller really annoyingly. And number 2, the little battery, like metal components, were like rusted and mouldy on one of them. So it still works with batteries. However, that was really rusty. So it obviously had been used. So I had a bit of a to and fro with the seller. He wouldn't offer me any refund, any partial refund. The only thing he would do is if I paid to return it, then he would give me a refund. In the end, I decided just to keep it because it was still £20 cheaper than the shop, and the box is in really nice condition. So I did keep it. But yeah, just to be careful with controllers when you're buying them off places like Vinted. And the Ghost Siphon, which I got for Christmas from my fiance last year. Do use these on a regular basis. Like I've mentioned, I use the Series X. It's my daily console, my go-to console. So I do use all of these kind of on a daily basis. I kind of pick up the one I most like to use. Don't like using the white one too much because it does get mucky very easily. Then moving on from 360 down to the bottom 3 shelves, we are now on to original Xbox. So very similar to the PS2, you know, there's a lot of games I've got on the PS2 that I've also got on the Xbox. Things like your GTAs, your Call of Duties, Colin McRae Rallies, Tomb Raiders. I think that there wasn't really for me, you know, the PS2 was the clear winner this generation, but in terms of, you know, which I like most, I like both consoles very similarly. I probably would sway to the Xbox a little bit, but the PS2 and the Xbox were both fantastic consoles. Again, another really good generation of games, and the highlights in here, things like Obscure, which is a really good horror game. If I can find Manhunt, which I do have on the system somewhere, although I can't find it, Manhunt here, this is quite an interesting fact about this game, is that this was actually banned in a lot of countries, including in Australia, because of how gruesome it was, really, how violent it was. And this is also made by Rockstar, who make GTA and Red Dead Redemption. The bottom shelf here is, as you can see, needs tidying. It is mainly just kind of, because all these shelves are full around me, this is where I just put any extra games at the moment. So a lot of Switch games on there, nothing too exciting, just standard stuff like Mario Kart, Pokemon Diamond, Splatoon 2, Sonic. Yeah, and then the bottom is things like, there's quite a few steelbooks here. So things like Bioshock, Doom, these are all Xbox 360 steelbooks. And then some of this stuff is duplicates that just needs giving away really to the charity shop. In fact, if you drop a comment on this video, I will give this section of games here away to one comment. So if you're still watching the video at this point, drop a comment, put something like giveaway, just comment giveaway, for example, and yeah, what I'll do is, it may be like 2 weeks time, I will give all them games away to somebody who has watched the video. Moving across back up to this shelf, which is the final shelf of games in the game room. We've got this Last of Us poster, which again was a Temu find, so pretty mad. It's actually really good quality. Got a cheap frame from the range, and yeah, it looks really good. That then we've got the Odyssey, as we mentioned, a Max Verstappen Funko Pop, because I'm a big Formula 1 fan and a big Max Verstappen fan. A couple of Pokemon plushies, a couple of other Funko Pops, and a Japanese Mario Golf game on the Game Boy Color. And then on to Xbox One. So Xbox One and Xbox Series X, a fairly smallest collection of about 60 games. Like we've mentioned, the Xbox One was pretty much a failure of a system, but at the same time, it did have some good games. Like a Dragon, Yakuza Like a Dragon is one of my standouts on this generation. And then we had things like Crash Bandicoot, It's About Time, we had Cyberpunk, we had the Master Chief Collection, which I still think is the best way to play all of the Halo games, rather than playing the older versions. Red Dead Redemption 2 came out on the Xbox One, believe it or not. And look, for most of these games, I'm not going to lie to you, the PlayStation 4 was much better. It played them way better. But given I had the Xbox first and I was an Xbox fan from the 360 era, I still played a lot of these on the Xbox One rather than the 360, or rather than the PS4, sorry. Again, nothing valuable here or anything worth talking about that much, so I won't linger on this too much. The only positive is that obviously all these games work on the Series X, so I don't have to have my Xbox One plugged in anymore, barely use it ever. And these I can just pop into the Series X. A lot of these aren't on Game Pass anymore, they get taken off Game Pass. So it's really handy to have them physical media so I can put them in and play. And then moving down to the DS and 3DS section. Again, a fairly smallish library. However, we've got some of the more valuable games in the collection on these two shelves. In particular, the Pokemon games. So, for example, Pokemon Black version is like £70 at the moment. We've got Pokemon Guardian Signs, Pokemon Ranger, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Pokemon Diamond, and the most expensive of the lot is Pokemon White version 2, which I think I paid about £90 for, and it keeps fluctuating between £80, £85 to £100 on CEX, so it's around about the £80 to £90 mark. And yeah, like I mentioned before, the Nintendo DS is where I played Pokemon the most growing up. Diamond and Pearl were my two go-to Pokemon games, and I played them a lot. I obviously had Game Boys when I was younger, but I were not into the Pokemon games as much. Black I played a lot as well growing up. So yeah, I have a lot of love for the DS. I've got a big selection of DSs down here. So we've got the original DS, we've got a 3DS somewhere at the bottom, a couple of DSi XLs, a DSi Standard, some DS Lites. Again, a system that I don't play all that often anymore, but a really, really good system nonetheless. And similar to the Wii, where, you know, it was a system for everyone really. It wasn't just me who had one in my family. My two sisters had one. I had the grey one, sorry, the silver one growing up. My sister had the blue one, and then my other younger sister had the pink one. And, you know, when we go on holiday, we all take our DSs with us, and they were great games, things like Mario Kart, that you could all play like on the way in the car when you were going out for the day or on holiday. Yeah, really, really good system. I think it holds up really well today because of the games were not designed to have the best graphics ever. There is a lot of shovelware. I mean, if you're watching this now, you're probably thinking, all this shelf here is shovelware pretty much, bar a couple of Mario games at the end. This is kind of all filler, and this is all killer, sorry, and this shelf is all filler. Now, one of my aims this year is, with PlayStation 1 and with Nintendo DS, is to go for all killer, no filler. So I'll be, some point soon in the near future, stripping out a lot of these games like I Did It Mum and Girls Life and Imagine Being a Champion Rider or a Teacher. They'll be going, and we'll be trying to just really like collate the DS collection down into maybe just like 20 or 30 games, but all killer games. So all first party games, all Marios, all Sonics, all Nintendo games, all Pokemon games. That is one of the aims for this year. And that does move us on nicely to PlayStation 1, where again, like I've already shown you before, we've got the Spyro and the Crash games up there. And what's down here is a lot of filler as well. We've got GTA 2, which is a really, really good game, and Resident Evil 2 as well, which are the two more expensive games in the system. Tony Hawk, again, good. But from that point onwards, it pretty much is all filler. Games like Lucky Luke I've got just because my name is Luke. And games like Siphon Filter, again, another good one. But a lot of this stuff is just filler. And this year, one of my aims is to maybe get rid of some of the filler, and replace it with the other Crash games I'm missing, the other Spyro games I'm missing, games that I played growing up, the other Resident Evil games, for example, the other GTA games. And yeah, these 3 shelves, I want to go down to 2 shelves, but all killer, no filler. And finally, that moves on to the last section of games in the collection, and that is the Wii games. So Wii, much like the DS, was a very much family console. Not a console I play rarely today because I've got the Switch and things like Switch Sports. But for its time, a really, really good console. And, you know, I have really fond memories of my grandparents who are now no longer with us. You know, playing the Wii at Christmas time, birthdays when they came round, things like Wii Fit and Wii Sports. So it holds a special place in my heart, the Wii. But it's not something that I actually collect for. In fact, I don't think this collection, I don't think I've bought a Wii game now for going on 4 or 5 years. And very much like the DS, the Wii had absolutely tons of filler. Because it was more family orientated and more people had it and had access to it, I think publishers and developers just churned out games and games and games because they know the audience was there to buy them. So a lot of filler on here. I think standout titles are just what people would expect. You know, Mario Kart Wii. For me, the second best Mario Kart ever after Mario Kart DS. I think Mario Kart DS is my favourite Mario Kart, followed by the Wii version. Very, very good. And yeah, hours and hours of fun. And also the Wii one was online. I remember I think it was the first console version of Mario Kart that you could play it online. Super Mario Galaxy, we had 2 like amazing Super Mario games. Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2 on the Wii. Which, again, even today, play really well. I think they've been remade now on the Switch, but still play really, really well. Some great Sonic games, and then things you had like your Wii Play and your Wii Fit, again, which I've already mentioned, which were also really good games. So that kind of wraps up the majority of the games in my room. Quick recap, yeah, we had over here, like some collection bits, PS3, so all this is Sony, so PS3 and PS4, PS2, PSP, collector stuff, and then yeah, Xbox 360, Xbox 360, 360, 360, 360, OG Xbox, Xbox One and Series X, DS, PS1 and Wii. And then the final part of the collection to talk about is we've come back full circle now towards the multimedia area, which both TVs now have obviously gone into standby mode. This is something that I have started kind of collecting recently a little bit, and that is getting into Blu-rays. So as well as games, I love my films and Blu-rays. So yeah, I started collecting, not like proactively collecting tons of Blu-rays, but just picking up Blu-rays as I'm going to see them. Films that I like. I'm a big Disney fan, as you can see. We've started collecting some of the Disney films. Hopefully that does not become a subset where I try to collect all 50 odd of them, because that will be a nightmare. So yeah, just a few select Blu-rays. The aim is to fill this shelf and then probably fill the bottom shelf, which at the moment just has like junk on it and loose items. With just all films that I'm a fan of, that means something to me. And yeah, usually what I'm doing is when I'm sat back on the chair and I'm playing my games on the main 55-inch TV, I usually put TV or YouTube on the smaller 22-inch TV just to my side. It's not 4K or anything, it's just HD. So I don't tend to watch Blu-rays all that often on here. Obviously, I can still play the Blu-rays, they're just not in great condition, not in great quality, not in true Blu-ray quality. And yeah, just above here, got a few loose bits on top, including Switch Sports, Yoshi, and a couple of nice steelbooks. And then just before I sign off, I promised I would talk about some of the lighting in my game room. So, the Vice City light I've already spoken a little bit about, and then the Xbox light I've also spoken a little bit about. What I've not spoken about is the lighting around the edges, kind of like the ambient lighting in the room. And all of that is Govee. Now, when it's quite bright like today, and it's been snowing as well, as you can see, but still quite a sunny day here in January, where I live in Yorkshire, the lights are not too bright. However, on a night, I'll put some videos on, you can see how much better they are. So yeah, they're all Govee. So the first set are these Govee glide lights, which run down the back of here. Now the wires could be a little bit neater, but these are quite new to the room. So this is the Govee glide, which Amazon had on sale recently. And then round the back of the sofa, I have got two Govee light bars. And then on the back of the TV, I've also got just a Govee LED light strip. And the magic with all these are that you have one app and you can control all 3 of these items using the app. So as you can see at the moment, they're all purple. And again, I'll put some footage over the top of this, but you'll see that when I make them orange, for example, they go orange, and you can do kind of all sorts of tricks with them as well. You can do like scenes where these move and run like a different color along them, stuff like that. So yeah, Really, really good. Like I say, loads better on a night when the game room is dark rather than through the day. And before people moan that my games are going to fade in the sun, I very rarely actually have this window open. I only tend to open it when I'm either playing for like an hour during the day or when I'm filming a video, just because it makes it a lot lighter in here, which looks much better on the camera. And that is the majority of the game room. Let me flip back. So yeah, there you have it. That is my 2026 video game room tour. Thank you so much for watching. As mentioned, if you drop a comment just saying giveaway, then some of the duplicate Xbox 360 games I will give away to one person in the next 2 weeks or so. Now with collecting, I always need goals because as you can see, this room is getting more full as we speak. The shelves that I've upgraded this year are already almost full. Like I said, we've doubled these shelves, and we just, as a collector, you'll know what it's like. You just fill shelves as you've got them. So I need to rein in my collecting a little bit. So I think over the next year, I'm going to set myself kind of some goals, which will be mainly on the PS1 and the DS stuff, to just go for killer, no filler. Like I've already mentioned, get rid of some of that rubbish, get rid of some of the filler titles that are worth in the pennies, and replace them with some better titles, more of the Mario stuff, the first party Nintendo stuff that actually are good games that I've actually played in the past or want to play in the future. Also continuing to build on the 360 library, given it's my favourite console. Even just looking at the shelf now, there's a lot of games that I kind of want to jump back into that I've not got. So I'm thinking of the other Lord of the Rings game. I've got Conquest. I can't remember what the other one's called, but I know there's another Lord of the Rings game, which I really, really want. Yeah, I want to finish like the subsets, like the Lego subset, for example. I'm missing a few games off that. The Forza Horizon subset. I know there's another 2 Forza Horizon games on this console that I can get. So yeah, 360 is a big one going into this year as well. If there's anything in the game room that you think should be changed, any way I could improve it at all, then please do let me know in the comments too. As always, thank you so much for watching once again. Please do subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I don't upload that frequently, but when I do upload, it's obviously all video game related content. So yeah, that would mean a lot to me and really help. Yeah, thanks for watching and keep gaming.